now is, you feel it, filled with passion and focus and understanding this moment. As we come together on a Monday morning where, as we wake up, we read in the papers that just this past weekend, there were 6 more stabbings in the New York City subway system. As we think about those in our family, despite our best work ethic and values, are just struggling to survive in this state financially, feel like your freedom in many respects is under attack. The quality of our kids' education is under attack, and despite any of the challenges we face, the great news is we still get to live in the greatest country in the history of the world. I believe that we live in the most exceptional country that's ever existed. And people come to this nation with a vision for themselves of what the American dream looks like for them and their family. It's a dream that is, still to this day, filled with a tremendous amount of opportunity. It's a vision of a quality of education that you can't get in the nation that you may be leaving to come here. People in our own government, people in power, in Albany and in Washington, at this point seem to be trying to turn our nation into some other nation, where the vision that brings all of us together, the passion that brings all of us together this morning, is one that strives to make our state and our country the best version of itself. There are a lot of kids who are counting on us who don't have a vote this November. This is a week where our kids on Long Island are off. It's great that I'm able to bring my daughters with me, Michaela and Ariana. Last week I had some travels upstate. They wanted to go. They couldn't because they were in school. But the field trip for today, they're able to come to Nassau County from a few miles east. We'll go to Queens and Staten Island today. And it's great to have my daughters with me and my wife, Diana. When our kids go back to school, when they're back in daycare, in the state of New York, our kids as young as 2 years old are still spending their entire day wearing masks. Whoa. This is one of the reasons why Andrew Cuomo 2.0 is worse than Andrew Cuomo the original. This is how I think the prior week would have gone as these blue state governors were announcing that they were getting rid of their statewide mask mandate. See, if Andrew Cuomo was still the governor, what he would have done with his ego is he would have gotten rid of the statewide mask mandate on Monday, because he was hearing about what was going to happen in other states on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then he would have claimed that everybody else was following his lead. Not following the science, but following the political science. Kathy Hochul decided to wait until Thursday and not to get rid of the statewide mask mandate on our kids in schools, but to actually extend it. Not following the science or the political science. Now, these kids don't have a vote. I guarantee you that if our kids in grade school all had votes, there would be no mask mandate on them inside of schools. Now, as some of you know, my daughters were born early. They were born 14 and a half weeks early. They were less than a pound and a half when they were born. Born in the 25th week. And these girls went through, both of them, lung surgery, both of them intestinal surgery. Michaela septic shock, a stroke, and then brain surgery, all when she was 2 weeks, 2 pounds. Early intervention is taking place right now inside of this state for young 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds. There are kids on the autism spectrum. There are kids learning how to speak for the first time. And you can't get this time back. Not being able to see a teacher's face, the teacher not being able to see your face, that kid unable to see another child's face. On so many different fronts, we are reminded all day long why it is so important that we're successful in this endeavor that brings us together this morning. People should feel safe on our streets. And that means that we have to repeal cashless bail in the state of New York.
Oh, yes.
That means that the governor of the state of New York needs to use his or her constitutional authority and remove district attorneys like Alvin Bragg who refuse to enforce the law. Feeling safe on our streets means providing all of our men and women in blue with every last bit of support they need and deserve to do their jobs safely and effectively. I believe that means we should pass a law enforcement Bill of Rights, and we should recognize the inherent right of self-defense of our men and women in blue and make sure that they have all the tools and resources they need and that they're not unfairly targeted by investigations. Every occupation has people who do the wrong thing. Every occupation. But what really gets me about the attacks on our law enforcement is that when one person is alleged to do something wrong, there are people who instinctively, right away, try to vilify the other 100% of the profession, as if they're not made up of selfless, dedicated men and women who love their job and try in every bit of their heart and their energy, their effort, to risk their lives not just for family, but for strangers. We need to make sure that our streets belong to law-abiding citizens again, instead of being turned over to criminals. For the small business owner, and this room and this community is filled with so many who brought their American dream to this country, had the guts to start a small business. The unknown of what they were jumping into. Trying to scrape together the dollars to be able to keep the lights on past your first day or week or month in business. In many respects, not knowing if the money you're going to need to stay in business that second month was even going to be there. I remember the first time I got a check when I started a practice, when I got off active duty. Someone gave me $2,000 to represent them. Now that wasn't a lot to get you past, the first week or two. And there's that uncertainty in your heart, in your gut, not knowing where it's going to come from next. This pandemic and the policies that came from Albany, whether it's from a state liquor authority harassing a restaurant or a bar, it's the Department of Environmental Conservation that might be extorting that person seeking that permit because they need to get that revenue in order to support themselves. Whether it was the lockdown policies that took place right when the pandemic started, or right now today where that 6-year-old in New York City has to show their paperwork in order to go eat at a restaurant in New York City, or go to a movie theater, or go to a museum. Small business owners in the Hispanic community who were in great shape going into this pandemic. Many of them were doing just fine without the government getting in the way because of government intervention. In many respects, were not able to survive, and others are barely holding on today. New York State recently, a couple weeks ago, announced an agreement between the Public Service Commission and National Grid with regards to an energy cost supply deal. Now, if you think for yourself what you would want this deal to look like, the actual deal that was cut was the exact opposite. The Public Service Commission agreed to allow National Grid to increase costs in exchange for, this was the deal, to increase costs in exchange for National Grid withdrawing an application for a new gas pipeline. That's the opposite of what you're expecting from government. Spending money that we don't have, forcing hardworking, blue-collar, middle-income New Yorkers to pay more. All New Yorkers to have to cough up more to the state, to be wasted away, instead of just putting more money back in your pocket, allowing you to keep what you earned in your pocket. And the worst thing is the way they pick winners and losers. That based on your connections, you might be able to get access to money from the state, but you might have the best proposal, the best idea, the best business, whatever, but because you don't have the right network, then you might not get access to that program. The worst part is when government puts their hand in one pocket of yours, and then they offer you your money, and they expect you to say thank you. And you check your other pocket, and you realize they just took it out of your pocket to give it back to you, and you want me to say thank you? We have people in public service who believe that public service is about the public serving the elected official, as opposed to what public service really is all about. It's about the elected official. It's about government serving the people.
Yes.
I look to you as New Yorkers, as residents, as voters, follows the governor, I'd say as constituents. What I don't look to you all as is apostles. You're the governor of the state of New York actually had the gall to refer to New Yorkers as her apostles. I want to end on a topic that I started on, but before I do, a very heartfelt thank you to RNHA, to the leaders of this great organization, both the state chapter and nationally. They truly have a vision here for New York. They have a plan that starts a long ways before January of 2023. And we can look at what happened in Virginia last November, but we can also look right where we are right here in Nassau County and on Long Island. You saw New York City and upstate. So much went from blue to red. Nassau and Suffolk District Attorney, Nassau County Executive, Suffolk County Legislature, New York City Council seats, upstate from Hornell to Colony and elsewhere, all on November 2nd went blue to red.
Right. Yes.
In order for us to be successful, we need everybody, everywhere, all in, every day, in every county of this state, talking to everybody that we know, to get involved. There are people who we are surrounded with every day who are not even registered to vote. There are people who we are surrounded with who are registered to vote, but voting on election day might be a game time decision. We need people who might be willing to volunteer for one day in October, to volunteer 15 days or 20 days between now and then. We need everybody to dig deeper. If everybody everywhere is all in, the change that you are seeking to end one-party rule in Washington, D.C., to end one-party rule in our state capital, to make sure that there's finally balance in this battle for the heart and soul of our country and our state, to ensure that you are able to celebrate a victory and a win this November for everything that you envision for New York in 2023. We had to come together early in February. We can't be gathered like this on October 20th of 2022. What we need to do together requires events and meetings and rallies and press conferences and social media activity and letters to the editor and more between now and then in order to be successful and win. We need more people to get involved in the RNHA. Help spread the word. Grow the ranks. How about this? How about we commit to having a rally later on in the campaign with all due respect and love and gratitude for all of the owners here of the Cuban? How about we set a goal of having so many people who are new members of the RNHA showing up at this rally later on in the campaign, that we would need 6 the Cuban restaurants to pack everybody into the room. So maybe we have to build a few more floors here and blow out the walls. I'm sure they wouldn't mind if it's for the added business. We need to help spread the word. But ultimately, I'll end right where this started. It's about our kids.
Yes.
And inside of our classrooms, we have kids who are being pitted against each other based on what they look like and who they are. Kids that were getting along just fine. And teachers pushing divisive curriculums, pitting kids against each other. And in the state of New York, in every last school district, in every last classroom, anywhere, there should be not a single divisive curriculum being pushed where you're pitting students against other students. It all should go. I'm tired of hearing people in education saying they don't have the bandwidth to be able to teach our kids more about everything that is so great about our country, but they somehow seem to have unlimited bandwidth to teach our kids about ways that they believe there's stuff that's wrong with our country. Teach more civics and American history in a way that kids can be proud of what makes our country great. Inside of our classrooms, there's sex education material that is years away from being age appropriate. What we learned in school, is now being taught to our kids years earlier. We need to make sure that every kid has access to a quality education. And that means, listen, if your kid is going to a great public school, that's fantastic. It's great. But we have kids stuck in multi-generational poverty who are stuck in poor performing public schools. And our kids should not be used as some type of experiment, some guinea pig. Those students, those families should have access to better education. Lift the cap on charter schools, tax credits for school choice. all of our kids being able to access the highest quality available education to them. I'm not saying that because I want any public school in the state of New York to get worse. I believe competition is good. I want to see every type of education, public, private, parochial, charter. Heck, even if you're homeschooling your kid, everybody should be set up for success in the state of New York. And lastly, you as a parent have a right to control the upbringing of your child, and that shall not be infringed by the government. Parents turning their kid over to an education system is not relinquishing your right to control the upbringing of your child. And a parent should be encouraged to get as involved as possible in their kids' education. Government should be encouraging it, and I am highly suspect of anyone in education, in government, who believes that a parent relinquishes that right and should instead just homeschool their kid if they want to get more involved. I'm suspicious of anyone in government who wants to infringe on that right, which is your right as a parent, which shall not be infringed. This is a campaign about saving our state. And that's not some slogan. It's why we're here. You might all be thinking about a breaking point in the state of New York. Think about that. This is how far we've come. Where if we went around this room, it's possible half, 60, 70% of us, maybe more, are asking ourselves, am I close to my breaking point where I'm going to leave this state? And while we gather here, in Garden City, in Nassau County, in the state of New York, I will boldly predict that there is not a gathering right now in Florida, or Texas, or South Carolina, where they are all talking about how they want to move to New York. It's a sad reality of the state of affairs of where we're at right now. And with the endorsement, the support of all of you, of the leaders, the organization, the members of RNHA, committed to reach out to every person out there who needs to get registered, every person out there who needs to actually vote and get informed and get involved, doing our part committing that we are all in between now and November 8th. Not only will we be celebrating the House of Representatives flipping from Democrats to Republicans, not only will we be celebrating the gavels getting handed over from Pelosi and Schiff and Nadler and Waters to and we will flip the United States Senate as well, and there will be balance in Washington, D.C. again. But Long Island's about to have its first governor.
Yes.
We will do everything in our power to make sure that there is history being written where 20 and 30 and 40 years from now they will be talking about what RNHA did in 2022, digging deep, starting early, all in taking advantage of this moment, making history, and once again, for the first time in decades, electing a Republican as governor here in the state of New York.